Hey everyone, Sean Banks here from Cash Consulting. It's nice to see everybody again. Today, I'm actually joined with a special guest today. Her name is Roberta with Vigilance. And today we're actually going to be focused on talking about how can small businesses get sponsorships for their events. So Roberta is actually a subject matter expert in her field and what she does. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to share with us. So Roberta, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
Sean, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. With that being said, can you tell us more about who you are and what your business is?
Yeah, sure. My name is Roberta Vigilance. I've been in the event sponsorship space for over 2 decades. I secure sponsors for events, all types of events, but I mainly worked with community events. Businesses, planners that are implementing or want to plan, let's say, a book bag drive or a wedding expo,
Right.
or it might be a contest for musician or a fashion show, and they are seeking funding for that event. But they don't want to come out of pocket. Maybe they work a 9 to 5, the budget is already stretched, or they just don't have the funding to do that passion filled event, that event that's close, that cause that's close to their heart.
Right.
So that's where the sponsorship comes in, and I help them to secure sponsors for their events.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that you actually provide the service because finding sponsors for events is not easy. And I'm pretty sure that there's a whole scientific method to figuring out like, who would be the right sponsor for the right events. But I do want to back up a little before we dive more into like how you help businesses. Just to give everybody some context, I actually met Roberta through a connection on Alignable. And if you're not a part of Alignable, I highly suggest becoming a member. Alignable is just another platform for small business owners, creatives to come together. It's similar to LinkedIn, but it's a little bit different. We're actually there to connect with one another and share information. If you do want the link to that, I will post it in the show notes. But since we're talking about Alignable, it's just right that we add and share from both of us how we found ways to benefit from it. So as you can see, I met Roberta through it. So you see how I'm benefiting. So Roberta, I'm curious, you've been on Alignable now for a while. How has it been working out for you, and how do you use it specifically for your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Alignable, believe it or not, I was introduced to, let me just go back a step. I was introduced to Alignable by this woman. Her name is Lady Renee. She works within the music industry, work with emerging musicians. She is just a wealth of information, very resourceful. So I worked with her on sponsorship. She wanted her musicians to learn about sponsorship and how to secure sponsors so that they can get the funding to get their music project off the ground. So she reached out to me and connected me with Alignable. I believe this was like in 2018. Alignable came out, I think, is 2014. But I believe she introduced me to Alignable 2018. Sean, I was like, I don't need another platform.
Right.
So Alignable kept contacting me, and the emails came from their corporate office. So it was like, oh, gee whiz, I just don't want another platform. But I'm so happy that I actually had the moment to consider what was happening, and I signed up for the Alignable, became active. Over the years, as you mentioned, Alignable is different than LinkedIn platform because they currently to date they have over 8 million businesses. Small to medium sized businesses is what they specialize in. That's what they're known for. Businesses within the US and Canada as well. Even though my business serves worldwide, I've worked with individuals outside of the US. They what they do, they have different regions within the US and, as I mentioned, Canada. Since working or networking on Alignable, I've met great individuals like yourself, which has given me a platform to share what I do with others and share with your audience, services like mine that can benefit them to achieve their goals. I've made a lot of connections. Currently, I have over 1,000 connections. They also give recommendation to business owners as we engage with each other. I'm sure you and I will give each other a recommendation after this. I have over 90 recommendations. I've given over 50, close to 60 recommendations. What that means, it builds the credibility when someone's like, well, who's Roberta Vigilance? How I
Yeah.
know she's legit. Well, now you have 90 business owners who are saying, yeah, she's legit. So now people come in and they prospect to find out more about me, and some of them are ready for me to work with me. So I've also gained clients as well, and people have purchased my book. So, and I've purchased services as well on Alignable. One thing I must say, Sean, one thing I must say is you still need to do your due diligence,
Yeah.
on Alignable as well as with any platform. So Alignable has served me well. And, you and I just came out of a networking event together by chance. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm meeting with you soon. That's Sean Banks. So that was cool.
Yeah, and I echo everything that you said. Like I've been on Alignable myself for 3 years. I found clients of Alignable, but I think the biggest thing that I have to take away from what you said is that social proof is so important because as you're meeting with our business owners, they're writing recommendations for you. They're introducing you to people in their network, and that due diligence part is very important too because everybody they claim to do amazing things. And I don't want to knock anybody and what they're trying to do, but you always want to make sure that you're doing your homework on anybody that you connect with on Alignable and making sure that they are who they say they are. Do they have that social proof, like you said? Do they have good recommendations, good reviews? Has there anybody that actually used their services? So for anybody who's new to Alignable or thinking about joining, you see that has benefited me and Roberta tremendously. So we encourage you to create that profile if you haven't. It is free to join. There is benefits with the paid versions, but give it a try. See if it's something that could work out for you and your business. And I highly encourage you to join a lot of the Smart Connects that me and Roberta just recently came off of. Join some of the groups of anything. You could learn something from all the different business owners and what they have to offer. So with that being said, Roberta, you're actually the star of the show. You're talking about how you've helped people from not only here in the US, but you help people across overseas actually find sponsors for their events. I am curious, what is your process in helping people find sponsors for their events?
I always say to start from within, right? Start from what's my event, right? So you need to have an event. The next step is to educate yourself on sponsorship, understanding what it is, knowing the language. When I started, it was going to companies and asking them to invest until I got into corporate America, and it was an invest. I had to change up. It was sponsor. Would you sponsor my event? And then I'm like, oh, this sponsorship realm open up to me. Like, okay, here we are. So the process is really truly simple, and it starts with, again, you need to have an event. After you have that event, understand sponsorship. The second thing is knowing how to communicate with sponsors, knowing the right language. A lot of people think sponsorship is donation, free money, grants. Totally different. It's not that at all. And you need to know these things specifically when you're working with a sponsorship professional who is savvy. And then the third thing is selling, right? Know what information to put into your sponsorship proposal, keeping your proposal concise and very clear, knowing what you have to offer. Again, starting from the within. My event, what does it have to offer the sponsor? Yes, I'm coming with their target audience, but what else? how can I help them to achieve their goals, to achieve their objective? Is
Right.
it through can I give them leads? Can I give them sales? And then you have to put that into the proposal so that the sponsorship professional can read what it is or understand what it is that you are offering them in a quick amount of time.
So I agree with everything that you said because looking for sponsors, I feel like it has to be a win-win partnership where you're getting value from the funding, but the sponsors has to get something in return for the funding they give you, whether it's additional marketing, maybe it's being featured in like a magazine or something after the event, or it could be the leads from that your summit or event is generating that could be offered to them. Um, but definitely, like you said, it has to be a partnership, and you have to understand what it is that you bring to the table that's going to make your event specifically unique. So with that being said, if there's someone who's creating an event for the first time, do you recommend them going after sponsors, or should they put the event on first to see, I guess to have that social proof to say like, hey, I did this event this one time. This were the results. These are my goals for the next event. No, would you be willing to sponsor? Like, what is your guidance there?
Yeah, I would say you start with your first event. The first event that was sponsored was just that, the first event. My first event was sponsored. So you don't necessarily need to have a track record.
Mhm.
It's about how that sponsor is going to gain some type of profit or again achieve their objective or ROI. What is in it for them? So the first event, it has the data, or you can allow them to, as something is going on live, they can pull data from that. Um, I would say that your very first event, just as if it's your second or your third, you're still starting with your audience. If it's
Right.
an audience of 50 or if it's an audience of 50,000, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you are returning value to that sponsor. That's just that is just again, you know, it sounds kind of corny saying this over and over again, but the bottom line is that you return value to that sponsor for the money that you are asking. And then after you do that event, then the data from that you can share that with the sponsor, because at the event you can do the leads. If you were to do something live, you can pull that metric and share that this we have a lot of likes. We ask our audience about this when concerning the sponsor, and you share that feedback with this with that sponsor. So you could do a lot of 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 you could do a lot of activations to return value to that sponsor. And sometimes too, when an event is old, it might have created a type of reputation as well that some sponsors might not want to touch, but you just never know. But start with the first, your first event, and then keep that sponsor, grow your event and the sponsorship,
Mhm.
and maybe you can have more of those types of events and just have it in different areas. But yeah, you could start with your first event.
Yeah, definitely. And don't be, I would say value is never a word that's overused. And then I feel like people don't really understand what value is sometimes to somebody else. And I feel like that's always the first step in understanding, if I want to sponsor for the event, what are they really going to care about? And you just have to like do your research. And it might just come from having that conversation to understand, like, if they're going to sponsor this event, what is it that you want specifically in return? And I think it goes down to your proposal as well. And knowing, like you said, keeping it concise, knowing what you're going to offer. but also knowing too what that sponsor wants in return. And I think having it in black and white really helps to make sure there's no miscommunication on what the deliverables are going to be. Um, so with that
That's
being
a
said,
good point.
and
If I could jump in,
so it,
okay, so I love what you've said, and that is another way. I just want to show you another way that you can go about it. Yes, you definitely need to have the conversation with the sponsor to find out exactly what it is that you need, because something might be going on in house that they did not put out to the public as yet. Something might have changed. But
right,
when I say start from within, know what value. When I started with my events, I knew from day one my value was my audience. So I knew that who Tommy Hilfiger was targeting, who Coca-Cola was targeting, who Rite Aid, and all these other sponsors that I have, I knew who they were targeting. So I
right,
started with that. Then I looked at what can I offer them. I always said to them back in the day, what I'm going to do is bring you up close and personal with your target audience. Because right now they're just consumers, we're just buying the stuff. And when something else comes up, we're jumping on that bandwagon to go to the other side. But what I can do for you is allow you to build a relationship with my audience, bring you up close and personal. So when I reached out to the Tommy Hilfiger and other businesses, it was pretty much, I have your target audience. Do you want to become up close and personal with your target audience? And this is how I'm going to do it, from the banners to the messaging to et cetera, et cetera. And they said yes. Now, if they wanted to tweak it, fine. If they say, well, Roberta, we're working on this other project that
yep,
we think the sponsorship will be better served there, or we would like to do add ons, which they will have to pay for, then that's fine. The other side of the coin is what you mentioned, right? Saying, hey, sponsor, I have this event. What is it that you want? That's fine as well. But I just prefer starting from within, even though I do approve having that conversation and say, I'm having this event. How can this event help you?
yeah, definitely. I think another thing to call out too is keeping that relationship alive with your sponsors even after the event, because there's no purpose or point in going out sponsorship hunting again when you had sponsors from your last event. It's just a matter of keeping in touch with them, making sure you're doing a little bit of customer service afterwards, make sure they got what they were supposed to get, and seeing if it was successful for them. Maybe there's other tips you can provide around that and keeping that relationship there. But I am curious to hear from you. In your experience, what are some of the mistakes that small businesses or anybody makes when going after sponsorships?
Yeah, that's a good one, Sean. That's one mistake that I made back in the day, was not staying in contact with sponsors, and that's why I go so heavy today, saying it's so important to stay in contact with them and grow that partnership, that sponsorship partnership. Another thing is to provide them with the metrics. Again, how did the sponsorship work? Show them proof, right? How is this? It's just like any relationship. How is this relationship? How is this partnership working? All right. Did we achieve the goals that we set out to achieve with this sponsorship? Then prove it to the sponsor. Show them how. This way, you can either upsell them for
Mhm.
the higher tier and more opportunities,
Right.
and then right and then or get them to come back on again. The next thing is, give the sponsorship process enough time. Sometimes your event is, and I'm being generous here when I say 3 months away, because people have contacted me and their event is 3 weeks away. So give the process enough time, because if you don't have the relationship and you're starting from ground zero, when you contact a company to get in contact with the sponsorship professional, sometimes the person who answers your initial contact, they don't know who really to transfer your call to.
Right.
Another thing is that person might be out of the office, so you have to wait. They might be too busy to take your call. So it's a process. So don't wait until the last minute. Give it for smaller budgets 6 months minimum. For larger budgets, high five figures, six figures, I would say up to a year. Start planning. A lot of people that have this great idea and they just want to get it out right there and then. Now, if you are that type, I would then say start with small to medium sized businesses. Just like Alignable, you can go directly to the owner of the company versus LinkedIn, where we have to go through the marketing department or someone else. Alignable allows us to get to the business owner. So if you're looking for, let's say, 5,000, 2,500, $1,000, then Alignable is a great place to be, because you can get 3 to 4 different sponsors to get your $5,000 or whatever it is that you need. So, one, provide the metric.
Hmm.
Two, well, even go back to what you said. The first one is, one, staying in contact. Two, provide the metric. Three, give it enough time. And then the fourth one I'm just going to say is to have a good sponsorship proposal. Keep it concise, keep it clear. And if you're going to tear it out, if you're going to do, well, this level one, level two, don't go in there with, gold, platinum, silver, or however that is. Just be very strategic, because it's elementary when you go in with those type of level, if it's not relatable, specifically if it's not relatable.
Yeah, definitely. And I one of those people that like to keep things very seamless and very simplified. So it's not too complex and confusing for anybody who wants to try and do business with me. And I think the biggest one out of those tips you mentioned was number three, is having the patience, because I believe we are in this era where people wants instant gratification. And I like feel like everybody has to practice trusting the process and being patient. If you're doing all the right things to get towards the results that you want, eventually it's going to come. But I feel like patience is something that we've all gotten away from in some type of sense, because we all want it right now, right now, right now, and it just doesn't happen like that. So I think really number three is really the big one, especially when you go weeks on out without hearing anything back from anybody, and you start having this doubt creep up in your mind, like, am I really going to pull this event off? Like, is it really worth the time? But you really just got to stick to your guns and just keep getting your information in front of people. And just one thing is, don't be afraid to follow up with people. When I talk to business owners, they always make that initial outreach or contact, but they don't follow up. It's the same thing with sponsors. I feel like you got to constantly be following up with them, calling, and making sure that they didn't forget about you and you're always staying top of mind.
Absolutely. I can say that any better. Spot on.
Um, but with that being said, I feel like we've come to the end of our interview. But Roberta, for anybody that is looking for help with getting sponsors for their event, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can reach me on my website, robertavigilance.com, my first and last name.com.
Okay. And don't worry, for anybody that's watching this video, Roberta's information will also be in the show notes. So if you are that person that could benefit from her services, feel free to connect with her. With that being said, Roberta, any last or final tips you want to give the people who's going to watch this video?
Absolutely. If anyone out there has any questions, they can contact me. My contact information is on my website. Maybe it doesn't matter what the question is. My goal is for them to secure sponsors successfully. I would say bring your event to life. Just as Sean mentioned, sometimes you go through the process and it feels as though a person is not responding, or they might respond to you in a very negative way, and you're like, oh, I felt that, I took that personal, like, you know, you're going to get that. That's just part of the process to get to the yes. So don't give up. Just remember that the reason you're doing your event, whether it is to help a community thrive or just to have fun, this is your process in life. Don't give up on it. Give it sufficient time. Target the right sponsors, and just see it through.
I couldn't have said it any better. So I feel like you nailed it right on the head, Roberta. So thank you for that. And then for anybody else, if you could benefit from coaching, or if there's specific topics or areas of your business that you need to make improvements, Cash Consulting is offering free monthly webinars. Our next one is coming up on January 15th. Respect your price tag at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. So if you need help with making sure you're not undercharging or overcharging for your services, you need to be at that webinar. With that being said, thank you for everyone for joining today's episode. Roberta, thank you again for giving us your wisdom and your guidance. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next topic.
Thank you.